I did want to get to this clip of Tish Hyman, who you probably remember. I mean, Megan covered this story a lot, and with good reason, because Tish Hyman is a singer and made a lot of news recently. She's been asking Eric Swalwell questions. She just asked, I think it was yesterday, Ro Khanna questions. And you probably remember Tish Hyman from the big gym controversy. Hyman is the Gold's Gym in Beverly Hills. You remember this? This was just like, it was last month and the month before. Time has no meaning anymore. But there's a convicted domestic abuser transitioning in the locker room with Tish Hyman. Tish Hyman has filed complaints against this convicted abuser in the women's locker room, accused the abuser of exposing himself, harassing her in the locker room. Just a crazy story. And Hyman has clearly just been overwhelmed with the emotions that come along with this type of experience. Especially, Tish Hyman is not your typical like GOP voter, and had this experience, has been refusing to stay silent about it, and went to a town hall, a Ro Khanna town hall. And I have to say, I know Ro Khanna, I like Ro Khanna, and the reason I find this story to be so interesting is that Ro Khanna has tried to bring the Democratic Party, to help the Democratic Party transcend the culture war, no pun intended, with the transcend language. But really, that's what Ro has tried to do, is said, if Democrats talk about populist, affordability, meat and potatoes type issues, he did that before, of course, the Zoran campaign. He's Bernie aligned, and comes to it from that vantage point after 2024. Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on their fighting oligarchy tour in red states, red areas, it's some of the stops. And, they were bringing out pretty big crowds, and they were not talking about the culture war. That won't surprise you at all, but it's very different than the Sanders campaign in 2020, or the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The language that she was using, the sort of faculty lounge language that she was using all of the time. Now, I'm not talking about whether their beliefs have changed, but I am saying that Ro, congressman obviously from Silicon Valley, one of the wealthiest districts in the entire country, talks about that all of the time, and is not afraid to tell his donors basically where to shove it. He's tried to be kind of a voice of reason on culture war issues, and to have to lead with affordability, meat and potatoes, kind of populist issues, fighting oligarchy, all that type of stuff. Here's what happened when yesterday Tish Hyman confronted Ro Khanna on the trans question at a town hall.
If you're going to vote for anyone, make sure that they're standing up for women's rights, because they're not. And if you're not aware, we are unprotected. Go in the bathroom right now, there could be a man in there. He says, I'm a woman, and that's okay. Now, I know none of you think that's okay. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your perspective. I certainly believe in safety, and I also believe that in this country we recognize the dignity and rights of every person to pursue happiness.
They are men. You need to stop with the malarkey. They are men. Stop making excuses for grown men going to women's restrooms. I'll hand it up to him. You're calmly lying and saying that it's okay. That's what you're saying. When you say that, you're saying it's okay. And I need you to say it's not okay for men to be in a women's locker room.
All right, so this clip is really instructive because it tests one of my central political theories, which is that the trans issue, when it comes up, is a litmus test for swing voters on the credibility, integrity of a candidate in question, because the vast majority of Americans do not believe, and I mean, we're talking the vast majority of Americans, do not believe that Tish Hyman should have to share a locker room with a domestic abuser man exposing himself and the like. Definitely nobody believes that a Gold's Gym should make life hard for Tish Hyman when she talks about what happened to her and tries to prevent it from happening again or to other people. But more importantly, your average swing voter, and certainly your average Republican voter, does not believe that men and women are interchangeable and that a man who transitions literally becomes a woman because he has literally aligned himself, as they will argue, with his biological mental sex, right? Again, this is the argument that you hear. Most Americans do not buy it, and that's because it's logically ridiculous. It's not true. And I'm happy to talk to people who believe that it's true. I think they have, interesting theories about sex and gender. I think they're pretty clearly wrong. I think this is politically toxic. I think it's, an esoteric, like, faculty lounge conversation that used to be gripping because it kind of tested what we thought we knew about sex and gender. And it's, I was going to say fun to read Judith Butler, but it's absolute hell to read Judith Butler. So I'm glad I caught myself before misspeaking. But, you're going back to de Beauvoir and reading Foucault and gender performativity from Butler and all of those people, that used to be where this was confined to. And then it escaped the lab setting and everybody saw it for what it was. And when elected Democrats, are unable to just say a simple thing, even though this issue is not what most people are voting on, I think it's almost an insurmountable hurdle with, it's not true in every race, but I'm just saying this as a kind of general rule. I really think it's almost an insurmountable hurdle with many swing voters in tight races, where Republicans play up this issue and make voters think about the issue. And I don't mean play up in a Republicans pounce or seize type of way, because I think it should be an issue, because I think women are going to be affected by these policies that Democrats, in my opinion, are very much on the wrong side of. So I don't begrudge, I'm not saying Republicans are exploiting it, but when they, I think rather cleverly, force Democrats to confront this, like with the Kamalas for they, them ad. But this has happened in states around the country. And races around the country, when they force Democrats to confront that issue and talk about it, I think it does really become a litmus test for a lot of swing voters, because it looks like people are lying. It looks like Democrats are lying. Like they're telling you something that they don't fully believe, that doesn't reflect their deeply held beliefs. And it just feels like they're lying or dancing around the truth for the sake of special interest groups. So it's not just that everyone is going out to vote on trans issues, and it's not just that this is an issue, because Americans actually have complicated views on whether adults should be able to transition and the reality of gender dysphoria and all of that. But when you're talking about men and women's locker rooms, boys and girls sports, these are roughly 80-20 issues. And if a Democrat's not willing to say this stuff is wrong, full stop, because men cannot become women, that is, I really think, a litmus test. And I don't know, I haven't talked to Ro about whether he's thinking about running in 2028. I think this would be, I'm sure there are people in conference rooms, like over at in Democratic campaigns as they're building right now, trying to figure out, and maybe James Talarico and Jasmine Crockett are among them, but trying to figure out how to talk about this issue in a way that doesn't alienate voters and doesn't become a sort of central litmus test believability issue. Because this, again, I just think it's so powerful, because you can bet Republicans, maybe some Dem primaries, we'll see, but you can bet Republicans are going to play this up with every Democrat who doesn't commit to ending the madness of putting men in women's prisons. That's something that happens at a fairly large scale in California, putting men in women's shelters, as has happened in Alaska and other places, putting men in women's locker rooms, boys and girls sports, which has happened virtually everywhere. Democrats need a sense of moral clarity on this issue, and it has to be based on what they actually believe. Otherwise, it will be a litmus test for many, many voters, probably too many voters. Now, Ro isn't really in a swing district, so he's not at risk. But I just think that interaction with Tish Hyman, again, who is far from your average GOP voter, where Tish Hyman's like bubbling over the top, boiling over with anger because of what she experienced. I think that really resonates, and I think it's better for the country, to be honest, if Democrats from Roe to James Talarico to Seth Moulton and Gavin Newsom can just come down with some moral clarity and say men cannot become biological, literal women, and we are not going to encourage laws that treat sex in that way because it sets women back and it puts women in danger. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong. If you've ever noticed those creepy ads that pop up on your phone and they seem to know exactly where you've been, what you've bought, even what you've been talking about, you've probably asked yourself, is my phone monitoring me? Yes, is the answer to that. Your instinct is correct. The truth is your smartphone is constantly collecting and leaking data without your knowledge or your consent. Every day it builds a detailed profile of your life, your information, your location, your habits, your interests, even the people you communicate with. That information is then funneled into an invisible marketplace where it's tracked, analyzed, and sold to the highest bidder, which, by the way, sometimes is the government itself. Keep that in mind. And it's not just annoying, it's invasive. It's happening all the time. But the Up Phone by Unplugged, I have it right here in my hand, you can see what it looks like, is different. It's designed to protect your privacy from the ground up. No hidden trackers, no data mining, just a secure, streamlined smartphone experience that puts you back in control. Whether you're texting, browsing, or using apps, the Up Phone ensures your personal information stays personal. It's the phone for people who are done being watched. And I have to say, when you start using this thing, it is so slick. So if you're ready to take back your digital privacy, visit unplugged.com/Emily and get $25 off a phone case with the purchase of a phone. Learn more and order your Up Phone today. And again, this is my Up Phone right here in my hands. And it's unplugged.com/Emily. That's where you can learn more. That's the link. You can order your Up Phone there. Unplugged.com/Emily, because your life should be yours and not theirs.